One question I have about structural integration that I still reckon with is, should we be doing something more general, or should we be working with the individual, working with what's there and present? And I think a lot of people are going to jump to the idea of the second, that you're working in the present with what's there. But there is an ego component to that, of you thinking that you're working with the individual in this very specific way that's just custom to them, rather than a general, more series approach of, in the third hour, we're spreading the sides apart, front to back. That's what it is. It doesn't matter who shows up. Yeah, you're noticing if one side is a lot shorter than the other. Like, you're noticing obvious things, but kind of processing someone. Sometimes Ida Rolf would refer to someone receiving Rolfing as having been processed. And if you're saying that having been processed, to some extent you are saying there is a process, or there is a general thing you're doing. So if you're wondering what would this first approach look like, I would say it's just kind of separating stuff and separating the same stuff. So in a fourth hour, separating the septums, or helping them embody the space between the compartments. And I just get this sense that people aren't spending enough time with this process before they start pretending they're doing something else, before they put their own spin on it. They're doing personal integration on this person rather than structural integration. They're putting their own energetic imprint into the person rather than pure structural integration imprint, which is what I'm saying is somewhat impersonal. Integrity is impersonal. It's, in general, you might think of integrity as, if I say I do, kind of holding true to your intent. But in terms of material integrity, like we're supposedly concerning ourselves with in structural integration, it's more about duration. How long is this being here? I want to say eternally, but that's not quite the right word. But is it here to last? I think that's kind of, in my opinion, what structural integrity is about. So, in terms of building, you see lots of verticals in terms of how we build. It's not the most efficient way to build a structure in terms of how much material is needed, but it seems to last pretty good. That's because it's related to the verticality of gravity, or that's one way of seeing it. A stop sign has this vertical pole because it's cheap, because it'll last, this shape of integrity. So in this way, structural integrity is very self-evident as far as what it is, in terms of someone that builds with inanimate material, supposedly. So I think really embodying this in your work, of almost being impersonal with who you're working with, being present but impersonal. There's really something to this that I think is being overlooked by people today, that I think in Ida Rolf's day, she was not going to let them overlook. She wasn't going to let them be cute and pretend they're just being intuitive and all this stuff. If they weren't holding true to what structural integration is, what it is at its core, at its impersonal core. So, you know, in some way it's easier to pretend you're just this magic, beautiful being that gets good results with everyone, doing it your way. But there's something missing about that, or you can sort of adopt that prematurely. I think that's really what happens. And it can be a beautiful thing. You can be doing a beautiful form of integration with the people, but is it structural integration, or are you doing something a little different? So I don't know which is the right approach, but I will say that first approach is being overlooked. Ida Rolf said stick with the series for 5 years before you kind of start doing your own thing. And back then, the work was hot. When she was alive, it was popular. Like if you were a Rolfer, you were respected. You were doing a lot of work. These days, it's, a lot of Rolfers are doing a lot, but a lot of them aren't doing a lot. A lot of them aren't doing it at all. They went to the school, they became Rolfers. So there's a wide range of that. So how many people are actually doing the series for 5 years now and doing, a lot of series work? I would say of people that graduate structural integration programs, I'd be surprised if it was 1%. I would be surprised. Of people actively doing structural integration regularly, I would be surprised if it were more than maybe 3%. I don't know. Kind of spitballing numbers here. I know I haven't done it. I've been working for 3 years, and it's almost like I haven't been able to hold my own integrity of that intention. And sometimes it's not appropriate too. Sometimes it's just not going to go that way. Sometimes something else is going to come through as it should. But yeah, are we overlooking the series? Are we pretending it's just for educational purposes of finding our own style before we really even find what it is? It's easy to tell yourself, well, it's just a tool. It's just a didactic tool for us to learn on our own. I kind of say going to Rolfing school was like, imagine if you'd seen people play professional basketball, but you've never played basketball in your whole life. There's no hoops or balls around. So you go to this school and you do a couple dribbling drills, you throw a couple on the hoop, you learn defensive stance, and then when you graduate school, they give you a hoop and they say, okay, you can go be a basketball player now. So you graduate, you're official, and that's like having been given the hoop for the first time. That's sort of what it feels like. I think if you really respect what this work can be, that you'll notice that is kind of the reality of it. Like if you're really dedicated to finding out what it is in the purest of ways, both in your own self-expression and in the root of what the work is, of what structural integration is, removed from all the narrative, just what structural integrity is purely from like an energetic intent perspective. So forgot what we even started the video talking about, but thank you for watching. Please share any feedback or perspectives because I am curious on others' experience of this. Thank you.